Welcome back to Wellness for Seniors, your channel for brain health and senior wellness. Imagine this. You're chatting with a dear friend over coffee, and they pause mid-sentence, struggling to find a word they've used 1,000 times before. Or you notice that your spouse misplaces the keys not once, but almost every day, in places that make no sense. The refrigerator, the bathroom counter, the laundry basket. You shrug it off. We're all forgetful sometimes, you say? But deep inside, a quiet question lingers. Could this be more than just normal aging? Alzheimer's disease is one of the most feared conditions of later life. It affects more than 6 million Americans, and worldwide, nearly 55 million people live with dementia. Yet what makes Alzheimer's especially dangerous is how quietly it begins. The early signs are often brushed aside as just getting older. Seniors and their families may ignore them until the disease has already advanced. By the time a diagnosis is made, precious years of prevention and treatment are lost. But here's the truth. Alzheimer's does not strike overnight. It whispers long before it shouts. The body and brain send signals, subtle, sometimes confusing, often dismissed. Those who learn to recognize these warnings can act early, seeking help, adjusting lifestyles, and slowing the disease's grip. In this journey, we'll uncover the most common Alzheimer's warning signs that seniors often ignore. From memory lapses that go beyond senior moments, to changes in personality, language, and even vision, each sign is a clue, a call to pay attention. We'll hear stories of seniors who missed these signs until it was too late, and others who recognized them, sought help, and found ways to preserve years of clarity. We'll explore what science tells us about the earliest stages of Alzheimer's, and we'll talk about practical steps that can protect the brain even in the face of risk. This is not a story meant to frighten. It's a story meant to empower. Because knowledge is power, and recognizing these signs could make the difference between living in confusion and living with clarity. So settle in, let your mind be calm, and come with me as we uncover the first silent sign. Memory problems that go far beyond normal aging. Warning sign number 1, memory loss that disrupts daily life. Everyone forgets things. You walk into a room and forget why you came. You misplace your glasses, then laugh when you find them on your head. These are normal lapses. But the first major warning sign of Alzheimer's is memory loss so disruptive that it interferes with daily life. This is not about occasionally forgetting a name, but forgetting important dates, events, or appointments repeatedly. Seniors with early Alzheimer's may ask the same question again and again, not because they didn't hear the answer, but because the memory simply didn't stick. They may rely heavily on notes, reminders, or family members to manage tasks they once handled effortlessly. Research from the Alzheimer's Association notes that while about 40% of people over 65 experience some age-related forgetfulness, only around 10% develop mild cognitive impairment, and an even smaller portion progress to Alzheimer's. The key difference lies in frequency and impact. If memory lapses are consistent, disruptive, and worsening, they may be more than senior moments. Take the story of Linda, a retired teacher in her late 70s. She began forgetting grocery items, even with a list. Soon, she couldn't remember conversations with her daughter from the day before. At first, her family laughed it off. Mom's just forgetful. But as the lapses grew, she left the stove on, forgot to pay bills, and once became disoriented driving to her own church of 40 years. That was the turning point. Tests confirmed early-stage Alzheimer's. Linda's story illustrates why ignoring memory loss can be dangerous. What begins as small lapses can escalate into safety risks. Recognizing this warning sign early gives seniors and families a chance to plan, seek medical advice, and explore treatments that may slow progression. The message is clear. Forgetfulness that disrupts daily life is not normal aging. It's a red flag. If you notice repeated lapses that impact safety, finances, or relationships, don't dismiss them. They may be your brain's way of asking for help. And memory isn't the only sign. Alzheimer's also hides in the words we speak, slowly stealing language in ways many seniors and their loved ones fail to see. Let's move to the second warning sign, struggling with language and communication. Warning sign number 2, language and communication problems. Language is one of the most beautiful gifts of the human brain. It allows us to share stories, express emotions, and connect with those we love. But in the early stages of Alzheimer's, language can begin to fray in subtle ways that many people overlook. The second warning sign seniors often ignore is trouble with words, communication, and following conversations. Normal aging sometimes makes it harder to recall a particular word. You might pause mid-sentence, snap your fingers, and eventually find it. But in Alzheimer's, these lapses become far more frequent and disruptive. A person may stop in the middle of a sentence because they cannot remember what they were saying. They may repeat phrases or lose track of the thread of conversation altogether. Common words slip away, replaced with vague terms like thing or stuff. Instead of saying television, someone might call it that watching box. The Alzheimer's Association identifies this as a key symptom: difficulty finding the right words or following along in discussions. Seniors may also struggle to name familiar objects or forget simple terms like chair or bread. Reading and writing can become harder as the disease disrupts pathways in the left hemisphere of the brain, where language is processed. Consider Robert, a retired lawyer in his 80s. Known for his eloquence in courtrooms, he began stumbling over simple sentences at family dinners. His children noticed him searching for words, often substituting the wrong ones. Once, he asked his wife to pass the floor when he meant to say pass the salt. At first, it was funny, but soon, his frustration grew. He avoided conversations because speaking felt like climbing a hill with every sentence. Eventually, Robert's family realized these weren't just slips of the tongue, they were signals of something deeper. Tests confirmed early Alzheimer's. This language breakdown doesn't only affect the person with Alzheimer's, it affects their loved ones. Conversations become stressful. Arguments erupt over misunderstandings. Isolation creeps in as seniors withdraw from social situations out of embarrassment. Research shows that nearly 70% of Alzheimer's patients experience significant language difficulties within the first few years of the disease. Ignoring this sign can rob families of precious time to adapt and seek support. There's also another dimension: listening. Alzheimer's can make it harder not only to speak, but to follow conversations, especially in noisy environments. A senior may nod along without understanding, masking their confusion. Loved ones may interpret this as inattention or disinterest, when in fact, it's a neurological struggle to process words in real time. The difference between normal aging and Alzheimer's lies again in frequency and severity. Occasional word-finding problems are expected as we age. But when language troubles disrupt everyday communication, when they cause frustration, embarrassment, or withdrawal, they are a red flag. What can families do? First, pay attention. Notice patterns. If a loved one consistently loses words, substitutes odd phrases, or struggles to follow conversations, don't brush it off. Encourage medical evaluation. Second, adjust communication. Speak slowly, use clear and simple language, and be patient. These changes reduce stress and allow the person to feel supported rather than judged. Robert's daughter put it best: "When Dad stopped speaking as smoothly, we thought he was just tired. But now I know his brain was giving us a warning. If we had recognized it earlier, we could have helped sooner." Language difficulties are one of Alzheimer's earliest whispers. They are easy to ignore, easy to laugh off, but they carry serious meaning. Recognizing them is not about labeling someone too soon. It's about protecting their future while time is still on their side. And language is just one part of the story. Alzheimer's also reveals itself in how we manage daily life, through confusion with tasks that once felt automatic. That brings us to the third warning sign: difficulty completing familiar activities. Warning sign number 3: difficulty completing familiar tasks. We all occasionally fumble with tasks. Maybe you forget the new password you just set up, or you blank on a recipe you haven't cooked in years. That's part of life. But in Alzheimer's, the difficulty goes deeper. It's not just forgetting new routines. It's losing the ability to complete familiar tasks that once came effortlessly. This is the third warning sign seniors often ignore. Imagine someone who has cooked the same family dinner every Sunday for decades suddenly forgetting how to prepare it. Or a retiree who has balanced the household budget for years no longer able to manage bills, making repeated mistakes with simple numbers. These lapses are not just off days. They reflect the brain's growing struggle with executive function, the ability to organize, plan, and follow steps. The Alzheimer's Association explains it this way: Seniors with early Alzheimer's may find it increasingly difficult to follow a recipe, keep track of a game's rules, or even remember the order of steps in dressing or bathing. It's not laziness or distraction, it's the brain's wiring misfiring. Take the story of Mary, an 82-year-old grandmother. For much of her life, she loved baking pies for her family. One Thanksgiving, she stood in the kitchen staring at her ingredients, unable to remember whether sugar came before or after the butter. Later, she forgot how to turn on the oven, though she had used it thousands of times. Her family dismissed it at first as stress, but when Mary began forgetting how to use her phone, how to write checks, and even how to make her bed, they realized something larger was unfolding. She was eventually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Mary's story is far from rare. Studies estimate that nearly 80% of seniors with early Alzheimer's show signs of difficulty managing daily tasks long before memory loss becomes obvious. These struggles often appear in small ways: confusion when driving familiar routes, forgetting how to operate a TV remote, or mixing up steps in making coffee. At first, loved ones may cover for them, doing the tasks instead, without realizing the behavior signals a disease in progress. The difference between normal aging and Alzheimer's lies again in consistency. Anyone might occasionally forget how to set a microwave timer or where the extra towels are kept. But in Alzheimer's, the problem repeats and worsens. Simple tasks that once felt automatic begin to feel foreign, like learning them for the first time. The emotional toll can be heavy. Seniors often feel frustrated, embarrassed, or ashamed when they can't complete tasks they once mastered. Some withdraw, hiding their struggles, which delays recognition. Families, too, may mistake the behavior for stubbornness or lack of effort. But it's neither. It's the disease speaking through everyday actions. What can be done? The first step is awareness. If you notice repeated struggles with familiar tasks, cooking, managing finances, using appliances, take note. Document patterns and share them with a healthcare provider. Early evaluation can reveal whether the problem stems from Alzheimer's or another condition, such as medication side effects or depression, which can mimic memory issues. Supporting seniors through this stage requires patience and adaptation. Break tasks into smaller steps. Use reminders, checklists, or labels to reduce confusion. Encourage independence where possible, but be ready to assist without judgment when needed. These small adjustments can reduce stress and maintain dignity. Mary's daughter reflected, "I thought Mom was just tired when she couldn't bake pies anymore. I wish I had seen it as the first sign, not the last." Her regret echoes the experience of many families. The lesson is clear. Familiar tasks becoming unfamiliar is not just aging. It's a red flag for Alzheimer's. So the third warning sign is unmistakable: difficulty completing tasks that were once routine. Ignoring it risks precious time. Recognizing it opens the door to help, planning, and hope. And just as tasks slip away, Alzheimer's often casts shadows on another area of life that few expect: vision and spatial awareness. Seniors may begin to struggle not with their eyes, but with their brain's ability to interpret what they see. That's the fourth warning sign, and one that families often mistake for simple eyesight problems. Warning sign number 4: vision and spatial problems. When people think of Alzheimer's, they almost always think of memory, but the disease doesn't stop there. It reaches into areas of the brain that control how we see and interpret the world. The fourth warning sign many seniors and their families ignore is trouble with vision and spatial awareness. At first, this may look like normal aging. After all, eyesight often weakens with time. Cataracts, glaucoma, or simply needing stronger glasses are common in later years. But Alzheimer's-related vision problems are not about the eyes. They're about the brain struggling to process what the eyes are seeing. Seniors may begin to misjudge distances, reaching too far or too short when trying to grab an object. They may struggle with contrast, failing to distinguish a white plate on a white tablecloth. Driving becomes dangerous. They might misinterpret a red light or misjudge the space between cars. Depth perception falters, making stairs, curbs, or uneven ground feel treacherous. Some even develop difficulty with reading, not because the letters are blurry, but because their brain can no longer follow the sequence of words across a page. Research from the Alzheimer's Disease Neuroimaging Initiative has shown that early Alzheimer's often damages the occipital lobe and posterior parietal cortex, areas of the brain responsible for processing visual information. In fact, up to 30% of patients in the early stages show significant visual spatial deficits long before severe memory loss appears. Consider Helen, an 84-year-old retired seamstress. For decades, she threaded needles with ease, cut fabric with precision, and created beautiful garments. But one day, she began missing the thread again and again. Soon, she couldn't judge where her scissors would land. Her family assumed her eyesight was failing, but new glasses didn't help. Later, she struggled to read recipes, skipping lines, or losing her place. Only after neurological testing did they discover the truth. It wasn't her eyes, it was Alzheimer's affecting her brain's ability to process vision. Helen's story highlights a common mistake. Families often rush to the optometrist when seniors complain about vision changes, without considering that the problem may lie deeper. By the time the true cause is recognized, years may have passed. The difference between normal aging and Alzheimer's-related vision issues is in the type and impact of the problems. Normal aging usually causes blurred vision or difficulty focusing at certain distances. Alzheimer's, by contrast, creates confusion in interpreting what is seen. A person may see a shadow and believe it's a hole in the floor. They may walk into furniture not because they didn't see it, but because their brain misjudged where it was. The consequences can be serious. Falls are a leading cause of injury in older adults, and Alzheimer's-related spatial problems dramatically increase fall risk. Driving accidents, too, are more likely when seniors cannot accurately interpret traffic signals or distances. What can families do? Awareness is the first step. If a loved one suddenly struggles with depth, contrast, or navigation in familiar places, don't assume it's just their eyes. Seek a medical evaluation that includes neurological testing. Occupational therapists can also help by suggesting adaptations, using high-contrast tableware, placing bright tape on stair edges, improving lighting, and rearranging rooms to reduce hazards. Patience and empathy are equally important. Imagine the frustration of seeing the world but not trusting what you see. Seniors often feel embarrassed or fearful, withdrawing from activities. Gentle reassurance and practical support can ease the burden and keep them engaged. So the fourth warning sign is clear: vision and spatial problems that go beyond normal eyesight changes. They are not just inconveniences. They may be the brain sending an urgent signal. And as vision falters, Alzheimer's reveals another layer, one that families often find the most heartbreaking: changes in personality and judgment. This is the fifth warning sign, and one that shows how Alzheimer's affects not only memory and skills, but the very essence of who we are. Warning sign number 5, personality and judgment changes plus outro. Alzheimer's doesn't just affect memory, language, or vision. Perhaps the most heartbreaking sign, and the one most often ignored, is a change in personality, behavior, or judgment. This is the fifth warning sign, and it strikes at the very heart of what makes someone feel like themselves. We all change as we age. A once busy parent may become quieter in retirement. Someone who was shy in youth may grow more open with years of experience. These changes are normal, the result of life seasons. But Alzheimer's-related personality shifts are different. They are sudden, uncharacteristic, and disruptive. A warm, gentle grandmother may become irritable and suspicious. A calm and patient father may lash out in anger over small frustrations. Someone who always handled money wisely may suddenly give away large sums to strangers or fall for scams. These aren't just quirks. They are signs that the brain regions responsible for judgment, impulse control, and empathy are under siege. Neurologists explain that Alzheimer's often damages the frontal lobe, the part of the brain that regulates behavior, decision-making, and social appropriateness. When this area falters, the filter that guides personality weakens. That's why seniors with Alzheimer's may act in ways their families barely recognize. Take the story of Samuel, an 87-year-old retired pastor. Known throughout his community for kindness and patience, he began accusing neighbors of stealing from him. He grew restless at night, pacing and muttering. His family, shocked, thought he might be depressed or simply stressed. But as his judgment declined, he gave money to strangers at the door, forgot to pay his bills, and once nearly wandered into traffic. It was only after medical evaluation that Alzheimer's was identified as the root cause. His personality changes weren't moral failings, they were neurological symptoms. Research supports what Samuel's family discovered. A study published in Neurology found that behavioral changes often appear years before significant memory loss. Anxiety, depression, irritability, and paranoia can all be early indicators of Alzheimer's or related dementias. Families who mistake these signs for just aging often lose precious time for intervention. The impact on loved ones can be profound. Watching a parent or spouse become suspicious, withdrawn, or reckless is deeply painful. It can strain relationships and create guilt, anger, or confusion. That's why education is so important. Recognizing that these changes are symptoms, not choices, helps families respond with compassion instead of conflict. So what can be done? First, don't ignore sudden or extreme personality shifts. If a loved one becomes unusually anxious, aggressive, or makes poor decisions, seek medical evaluation. Early intervention can rule out other causes, such as depression, thyroid problems, or medication side effects, conditions that can mimic Alzheimer's but are treatable. And if it is Alzheimer's, early recognition allows families to create safety plans, access support, and explore treatments that may slow progression. Second, build patience into daily life. Seniors experiencing personality changes are not trying to be difficult. They are navigating a world where their brain is no longer giving them clear guidance. Approaching with calmness, reassurance, and gentle redirection often works better than confrontation. Finally, protect dignity. Even as judgment falters, seniors need to feel respected and valued. Simple acts, involving them in decisions where possible, listening to their concerns, celebrating their stories, remind them that they are still loved and important. The fifth warning sign is a powerful reminder. Alzheimer's does not only steal memories, it can alter identity. And ignoring these changes risks losing precious time for care, safety, and connection. As we close, let's reflect on what we've uncovered tonight. Alzheimer's disease whispers long before it shouts. Its early signs are easy to dismiss. Memory lapses beyond normal aging, struggles with language, difficulty completing familiar tasks, vision and spatial problems, and changes in personality or judgment. Each of these signs, taken alone, may seem harmless, but together, they tell a story the brain is quietly writing. Recognizing these warnings is not about fear, it's about empowerment. It's about giving seniors and families a chance to act, to plan, and to hold on to clarity for as long as possible. Because while we cannot yet cure Alzheimer's, we can fight it with awareness, compassion, and early intervention. So, as you leave this journey tonight, carry this knowledge with you. If you see these signs in yourself or someone you love, don't ignore them. Talk to a doctor, seek evaluation, and take steps toward protecting brain health. The earlier the response, the stronger the defense. Thank you for joining me on Wellness for Seniors. If tonight's video gave you insight, share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe for more science-backed guidance on brain health, longevity, and senior wellness. Until next time, remember, paying attention to small whispers today could preserve years of clarity tomorrow. Stay curious, stay aware, and stay well.